Welcome back to the Backside Poddy. This week we're joined by Nathan White, and he's here to talk to us all about ProVelo and Cobra 9.
2 gin and tonics, 2 vodkas, and a scotch.
Yes?
500 watts, please.
Now let's introduce you to the Backsiders. Freebs,
Hello.
Jim Bob,
Yeehaw.
Whitey,
Good to be here.
and myself, Shauno. What's been happening, Freebs? You a bit happy, mate?
Man, I'm always happy to be here. It's one of my favourite times of the week.
Isn't it just?
Do I sound all right?
No, you sound great, mate.
Excellent.
Not slurring a word.
Perfect. Sounds like normal. Mate, it's been a big come down. Oh, I'll say. I mean, we've got Whitey here to talk about the ProVelo, but it's been a big come down.
Mate, the come down was last week.
It's
We're
been...
still going.
It's
a
extended.
2-weeker.
It's extended 2-weeker. For me, mate, I've been too good for too long, and that's a bad thing for me. So...
Too good for too long.
Yeah.
Jeez,
So
you're putting tickets on yourself, champ.
No, as in I've been eating too well,
Yeah.
not drinking enough, and it started last weekend.
Is Project 72 back on after this week?
Project 78's on at the moment.
Yeah, it is back. It's close. It's narrowing back to 78. But anyway, I went to the football last weekend, the Lions, which was lovely. But anyway, Lukey D decided to try and recruit me for wines last Saturday after the mountain biking expeditions. And I gave in, which normally I'd say no in the last few weeks, and ended up at Wineology at Adelaide Street there in the city, and I tucked into many a wines.
Sounds like an expensive night out.
Anyway, before we went to the footy,
Oh.
the Lions, and Amber took me home at halftime.
That's outstanding. Our thoughts go out to Amber. We apologise on Andrew's behalf for his behaviour last Saturday.
So that's my week that was. No, but I did manage, because it did piss down a lot on Saturday, so I managed to get out on the bike, which was lovely, on the mountain bike.
Yep.
And did try and take a bit of footage, which I'll share with you boys a bit later. But I did venture over to Gap Creek in the pissing rain, which was quite an experience on a mountain bike when you're dealing with tidal waves coming down creek beds that don't normally exist.
Did you take a snorkel?
Yeah, I was literally felt like I needed to put a snorkel on the forward drive. And anyway, the old mountain bike's not quite the same as it was before I started, but
Few new bearings required.
new bearings required. Not quite as good as the Sharks, but
Forks and rear shock need a rebuild.
Yeah, she's Anyway, I've got some good footage of it, so we'll put that up in the coming.
It was all worth it, hopefully.
It's an expensive outing.
Oh,
You have to get the benefits of running these days, guys. The rain's less important for the...
Do you get blisters?
No, not...
No, you just
No.
get
But
bloody...
the
Chafing.
rain causes no issues for runners, mate.
Nipples?
No, none of that at all. Actually, I dislocated my shoulder about 2 weeks ago falling over while running, so I shouldn't say it's all without
You did.
yeah.
Well done, champion.
It happens. Happens to the best of us.
Just when you thought binning it was done.
Yeah, nothing worse than coming home with a dislocated shoulder after going for a run.
Oh,
Was it one of those moments where you hit the ground and stopped and then had to have a quick look around to see if anyone saw and then
I was with Roops and Noxie at the time, and I actually dislocated on the way down rather than on the ground. So
Okay.
it popped out. I've done it before. I was like, takes 4 weeks to recover again.
poor bastard.
That sounds like you need some physio on that, mate.
Lots. I need more than physio, mate. You know that.
Cat.
Bit of a rebuild.
Both of
Where do I go from there?
I reckon we go straight into Whitey's week.
Yeah, well, I wasn't quite finished, but anyway, we'll go straight with Whitey because that sounds horrible.
What's been happening, Whitey?
this week.
Yeah.
Just work, mate, as always. Just
Yeah.
busy as. I don't do the Ks you guys do on the bike these days, so I spend most of my time just seeing patients and getting things done. So, but no, as Freebs was saying, it's been a bit of a come down probably the last 10 days since the last run of ProVelo. So, trying to sort of work out the priorities post race calendar is always a bit challenging. But it sort of finished quick, and then trying to catch up on all the stuff you sort of put
To the
on the back
side.
burner, while you're doing it. So.
It was sort of like you hit the nail on the head there, Whitey. I think it finished so quickly and it was just done. And it was sort of like you closed the book on it and it was like, well, what now?
Yeah, a bit of that goes on, I think. I think being a local tour, the last tour as well, we've been all around Australia all year chasing our tails and getting boys around to races, different capital cities. And then the Q Tour's last tour. And in fairness, I think it was probably the best tour of the ProVelo series this year, up there with probably Tasmania. And it was good, and we had a good race, obviously. And we had all our guys around, and on local roads, and a lot of support from the local community as well. And I think we race well, and I think when you race well, it consumes you, and then when it's finished, you're like, oh, gosh, that was intense, and it's over. I don't think we thought about it much before the last round being the last round, and then when it's finished, it's very abrupt, very binary, and you almost need like a night just to sort of debrief and unwind and sort of work your way out of it again, which we did a little bit of afterwards. We had a few wines and a bit of a chat, but sometimes when those tours finish at away locations, let's say the tour had to finish in Adelaide, then generally the last night you'd be away with the boys and you'd have maybe a bit of a session with the guys, and a bit of a debrief and a laugh and a chat. Then you'd all head off to the airport next day and shake hands and go your separate ways.
Yeah.
Where I think being the Q tour, we all said, that was all right, boys. We'll just head home now, and that's that. So
see you when you see you.
Yeah, it wasn't quite the same sort of finish you'd have when the tour was at a different capital city. But no, it was all on, and then it was all off, and then the rest of your life has to come back, and you have to sort of take care of the rest of the stuff as well.
I wonder what Team Brennan did on the Sunday night. Do you reckon they really
I think they got
lit it up, or did they all jump on planes and go straight to wherever they needed to go to next?
You can use your imagination with those boys. It would have been, I'm sure it would have been full of high frivolity, lots of hijinks and shenanigans. But no, they're good lads. I mean, they do it differently to us. I mean, they'd probably take it a little bit more seriously than we do generally, and then their support staff is much more significant than ours.
Turn to see yourself, mate.
The volume of support staff at races and the actual infrastructure around the team is quite high. So, but that's not saying that those guys don't have a great time as well. I guess their definition of a great time may just differ to ours subtly. I've never really seen the team as being a team which is purely there to develop riders in the same sense, perhaps, as Brendan. It's more about developing the characters behind the riders, and having them, embrace the team culture and grow from that, rather than sort of see cycling as the pure outcome there. But if guys can come out of the series and out of that team exposure and be more rounded, better guys, better riders, but also better teammates, and leaving feeling like it's been a wonderful experience, and not going home and being like, that was a real letdown, or I didn't achieve as much as I thought I was going to do, then that's a great outcome. And I mean, no one's going to tell me to my face that they've had a negative experience generally. It's unusual for someone to come up to me and say, mate, that was shit house. What were you doing? It's unusual. But, the feedback I've had from all the riders so far it's been fantastic. And that's a massive motivator, really.
100%. I think there's 3 young guys in there that are definitely benefiting from it. And also having some older guys in that team as well. Not myself and Freeze, we're too old. And but there are some more experienced riders in there that those guys are definitely learning a lot from.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge, to find that balance, because I think you don't have to be old as a number to fulfill that role as a rider. You can be a younger guy, and if you have the right mentality, you can fulfill that role as an older rider around younger guys. I think this year that role was undertaken exceptionally by Ben Carman, who is not that old, Ben Carman. And
he's a wise head.
He is. And I've known him for a long time, and I've raced against him for a long time. When I say raced against him, I raced around him and mainly behind him, but for a long time. And I've always had a lot of respect for him. And he's raced for us for a few years on and off locally. And I've always, he's an intelligent guy. He's a thoughtful guy. And when we set the team up this year, he was one of the first guys I contacted, and he's one of those guys that doesn't take too long to say yes. And when he's on completely. He's not there 10%. He's there 110%. And when he came on board, I'm like, well, we're going to be okay, because he can organise guys, and it's not just about being that guy you can look up to from other riders. It's also about being a rider who leads with example. Like he's organised, he's tidy, he's professional. So he's at the bus on time. He's ready on time. His kit's ready. His gear is ready, which demonstrates a level of
even what are we eating this afternoon?
Yeah, he's spot on. And then away from that though, he can party and have as much fun as anybody else, and he's loose. Like he's a loose character like the rest of us. But when he needs to be professional and he needs to turn it on, he can do it. And I think a lot of the young guys saw that in South Australia right at the start, and they were like, okay, we're here to have fun, but this guy, we've got to make sure this guy is impressed by our actions. And a lot of the guys, probably he didn't even know it himself, Benny, but a lot of the young guys look up to him a lot more than even he imagined. And of course, we had Sam Jenner come on board for the remainder of the tour, and Sam's another old head. He's an absolute professional, another guy who rocks up with everything in the right place in the right order. And I still think I love Sam. He's a great guy. I've known him for a long time. And I thought maybe he'd take that role. But I think by the end of the tour, it was pretty obvious that Ben was going to be that guy. And he remained that guy all the way through. And even when he wasn't racing for us towards the end, he was still involved in the background. Yeah. And he was often in Thailand racing, and he's still providing information back to the boys. So, those kind of guys, they make or break teams. And if you haven't got one of those guys in the team, it's much harder to run. And even though we're running the team from above, you can't run it from above when you got guys who need someone to show them direction on the road. So, Benny is brilliant, and he's an asset to any team. And he's one of those guys that I just feel like different time, different place, maybe would have gone even further in his own career, but we're lucky to have him, and we'll have him as long as we can.
100%.
Well said.
100%. Well, do we go from there into ProVelo, or do we stick? Shawnee, tell us about your week, mate.
Man, I reckon we keep talking to Whitey.
Yeah,
let's
we'll
keep
come back
going
to
with
it.
My week wasn't that interesting, to be honest.
No.
This is going well.
Well, I'm keen to hear. I mean, ProVelo gets announced last year, Whitey, at some point. I can't remember when, probably middle of the year.
Yeah, I think there was some tidbits on social media pretty early in the start of last year, and we were like, what is this thing?
When did you decide to jump in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you see it and you get excited about. I mean, that doesn't matter what you do in cycling. When you see something new and racing on the horizon, just as a cyclist, you see it and you're excited about it, even before you know what the shape and texture of it is. But the interesting part was there was a lot of early promotion about being a replacement for NRS and being a more of a national road series sort of equivalent, but much more, more of a high media, high promotion activity. Like, it looked good, but anyone who's been racing bikes as long as we have knows that these things often don't always come to fruition, and there are a lot of promises made in cycling around racing that doesn't quite come out. So there's a degree of trepidation around getting too excited about a new venture until it really is on the way. So originally I saw it and was like, I don't know if this is going to happen. We'll just keep an eye on it. And then as we got closer to the end of last year, it seemed like there was going to be some semblance of an organisation. And, the racing calendar was released and a race was removed. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. But then the rest of the races remained. And I was keen to enter, and I went to the website a few times and I clicked a few links, and they were broken links. And I'm like, oh, no, here we go again. This is not going to happen. So, and it's an expensive undertaking to do it and get everyone motivated and to not happen. So I think it wasn't probably until November last year I felt confident enough that there was going to be some racing. And, to go from that, it's an interesting exercise because, you're not just entering a race for yourself. You're basically saying to 10, 11 guys, hey, we're going to do this. Are you in 100% to do it? Knowing full well that maybe it won't happen and or maybe we won't race every round. So you're sort of half in, half out a long time, and which makes it very hard to organise yourself and organise a team behind it and to get your sponsors on board behind it as well. Now, we're very lucky we have a collection of sponsors behind us that have been around us for so long. And none of this happens without them. Like we're talking about Lee Surveying, Rupert Lee is a big one. Big Stevie from NCMG down in Coffs, who's a fantastic guy. And we have a collection of enormous amounts of smaller sponsors who always contribute every year, side on side. So they'll throw it around every year. So once we got to the idea of, okay, it might be on, let's get a team, those guys were already there. So it gave us a huge amount of inertia to be like, well, the cash will be there in some shape or form. And
it's a big cost.
It is. It's huge. I don't know the final landed cost for us this year, but
don't look at it.
You look at it because we build it into our spreadsheets and into our profit loss statements, but it's not cheap. It does end up, the final numbers aren't, I don't know, but it'd be between 50 and 70K probably at the end of the year. So
it's a huge commitment. And I don't mean to cut you off because you're on a roll there, but for most people in Australian cycling, the return, and this is a question as well as a statement. How do you get a return out for your sponsors? How do you get a return out for your guys, yourself, the time invested? I don't know how to answer that. No, that's a question as well as a statement, but I think it's an absolute credit to you guys that you've, from Brisbane, the only team really from Brisbane that's put all this effort in. It's pretty cool. I was pretty stoked to be a part of it, albeit one round. Mate, absolutely hats off to you. Like, it's a huge undertaking to do this, and what an outcome given where it was like you said, in November, maybe it's happening,
Yeah.
maybe it's not happening. Is it going to happen? What are we going to do? How's it going to unfold? And I think it was an absolute credit to Whitey and the crew. It's come out amazing. You know, Jack's got an amazing contract out of it. Cool event, well publicised, and here we are, a Queensland team that's done pretty bloody well with Benny Carmen and a few other like amazing cyclists that have come out of it.
Yeah.
Shit, what an event.
Yeah, I think it's it's funny because on the inside you don't really look at it like that. You just sort of see it as being something like we've been racing as a team in some shape or form for a long time. Like we've been going around since 2012, 2013 on and off, doing different levels. So the idea of racing, it's not foreign to us, and we sort of know how the things sort of work in the background. But it's a challenge because you don't want to let guys down. I don't mind letting myself down, and I do it all the time. And my wife, and obviously she can handle it as well, which is lucky. But
Trooper.
But you don't want to let the riders down, and that's over all the years we've been doing racing and racing teams. That's the part which wears heaviest on your mind. Not so much the cash is there, but letting guys down, that's very wearing. So you never want to overpromise and underdeliver. And because there are some guys who look at this as being a stepping stone.
Yeah.
When it doesn't happen, and then it's big. So, I mean, in this instance, I think November we decided to do a bit of it, and I was talking to Matty Wilson about it, and Matty's like, you probably should do all the rounds, and, you don't have to do all 6, you can just do 5, and we'll make it work. And I'm like, yeah, obviously he was very motivated to get more full ProVelo teams rather than just wildcard teams, which was our initial idea. And then once we committed, I was talking to Rupert, because let's be honest, if Rupert wasn't involved, Lee Surveyors, the other half of Cobra and Lee Surveying Racing, we wouldn't commit to this level because Rupert provides an enormous amount of support, not just financially, and it is financial as well. And he also helps us out with vehicles and stuff which you don't really know about until you see it from behind the scenes. But like Rupert and I run together 3-4 times a week. We talk a lot. We joke a lot. We joke about the team a lot. We discuss it a lot. So he wears a bit of the weight on his shoulders. I know he wasn't available to get too much races this year, but he wears a lot of responsibility as well. And when we made this final call in November, I said, "Rupes, we're going to do this all on, mate." And at the end of the day, whilst you got sponsors, it has to lean on someone at the end of the day to cover it in case it goes pear-shaped. And Rupert and I are comfortable with that. We're comfortable with the idea that if we need to raise more funds, we'll get it done. We're not going to leave guys hanging. And having that kind of guy in your corner makes a massive difference. Because, there are teams out there that haven't got that or are let down in that way. And it's a horrible thing. It's not good for anybody. So him being there helped. And then, we did it. And once you commit to it, you got to commit to it. Once you commit, you're in. You can't go back halfway and go, we'll go back a bit. So at that point when that tips and you're like, we're all in, and that was probably mid-November last year. So we're going to go all in here, guys. When that happens, you go and straight away, instantaneously, bang, 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 book every flight, book all accommodation straight away. You just got to do it all quick. Otherwise, it just gets expensive and it doesn't happen and it feeds out. So you do everything straight away. So every single round, which was expensive to get to and far away, we just booked straight away. Bang, 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 bang. And once that's done, all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're away here. And then and the inertia takes over. And we have a history of a lot of riders who we know and we can call upon for this kind of events, and they're all people who we know organically. We don't have any mercenary riders, so we don't target riders we don't know. We don't target riders who have good results. We have no background with, so we only ride with riders we know or we have some experience with. So all the guys who I reached out to ride this year, I have a personal relationship, and they're great guys, and I trust them, and I know their personalities, and I know they'll fit to a point. And then when they come together in that first round in South Australia, we booked the flights, booked this amazing house, top of the hills, Adelaide Hills. And we got down there first night, myself and a good mate of mine, Lasser, who also supports the team from Madsen Gearing Engineering. He drove the car down with me from Brisbane. Got down there, met the boys, took them home, made dinner, went for a ride, had a bit of a chat. And straight away I was like, this is going to be fucking awesome. You could just feel the vibe was awesome. Everyone was getting along, lots of hands going out, lots of touching going on, lots of
hand shandies.
No, there's less of those, but a lot of contact,
You had Pirate Pete too, mate.
a lot of, and it felt good. And you get that sensation of the guys are going to be in it for everybody else, and they're going to ride for somebody else, and they're going to look after everybody else in the squad. And, quite quickly there's a bit of bonding going on in terms of, stories are coming out and, identifying some commonalities. And the guys just found their niche, and it was fantastic. And by the end of that tour, last night, before we headed off, myself and Lasser had about 3,000 of Adelaide's finest wines under our belt.
Yeah.
Brilliant wines, a couple from Shaw and Smith, and it was good stuff. And the boys, all going to bed, drifting off to bed. They didn't drink much, which goes to show that these guys take themselves pretty seriously despite, being larrikins. And we had a few wines, and Lasser and I were talking, and the guys were going off to bed. And before we knew it, they'd all drifted back. And we had this sunken lounge room in Norton Summit Road, this beautiful old sort of house looking over the lights of Adelaide. And all of a sudden, all the boys were just back in the room, just sitting there listening to the stories, telling their own stories for hours. It was like, it's hard to put into words how fulfilling that is as a team manager owner, and also as someone who's getting young guys to form relationships that are real with teammates. And it's so sustaining. It's the reason why I don't do it for the development of riders in that sense. I just do it because that level of camaraderie is just so sustaining. And I think also, they were all in for one another after that first tour, and they'd sort of, they'd showed their capacity, they'd showed their quality already. And, we left after that first tour, and we didn't want to leave. It was like, this is so good. We could just spend a month just doing training camp with these guys. It felt so great. So once that happens, it gets easier straight away.
I think that has probably set the tone for the rest of the series, because Freebs and I noticed it when we got there. We obviously know most of the guys outside of the ProVelo series, but we could see like everyone's sort of really vibing, and it's serious, but like a professional outfit.
Man, I was almost intimidated.
Yeah, it was hard.
I was actually intimidated by the culture. You laugh, but when you're not part of it from day one, and you're coming into something that you're hearing about and seeing about and all that sort of stuff from afar, albeit a mature age recruit, if you want to call it that, I was semi-intimidated, and I was massively intimidated in the first stage. And I think that, and we Jim Bob and I grew through that tour. But yeah, that culture, unless you're part of it from day one, which you said about, sitting in the lounge room, the sunken lounge room in Norton Summit there. Yeah, it's when you witness it from the far, you go, shit, that's cool. But when you're not part of it, like, shit, how do I fit into this, and how am I going to be part of it? And mate, the guys were so accommodating, and even just the WhatsApp or the messenger groups, etc., made you feel connected. But it was intimidating coming in, I must admit.
That WhatsApp chat gets pretty wild. But that's fine. You can put it on that, and it's all circle of trust on there. But the
depends what you say tonight.
Yeah, I think like you're right. I mean, like everyone, I'm around cyclists all day, every day at work, and with what we do. And they all want that. No matter how old they are, whether they're juniors coming out of early days, or they're older guys
40s.
racing Masters D, they all want that experience from cycling. That's what we do it for. And I think like when I talk to the sponsors about this, and I'm discussing the idea of them getting involved, and I'm like, this is a good thing for the, it's not charity, but it verges on being a bit of charity sometimes. But I'm like, you get access into like a window of camaraderie and teamsmanship you don't get generally very often. And you can go and buy a corporate box at the Broncos and have a few beers and watch the Broncos play. You're not inside that. You're a spectator. But when you're actually, inside the crew, and you're around the boys, and you see them having bad days, and you see them having good days, and you see them after a race, just getting around their teammates and lifting them up. And I think for young men at that age, and for any man, to be honest, and for anybody, it's a very vital part of what makes us who we are. So I do it for that reason. I do it because I just love how it makes me feel. It's not altruism. I enjoy it as well. But I do enjoy small things like, we'll have dinner every night with this crew, or Lasser or myself or someone will cook, and we'll have dinner together, and we'll sit down, big long table. When I go to hotels, we have houses, so we can sit at the one table and we'll talk. And we'll talk for 2 hours at dinner, and we'll chat. And, the phones might be on the table, and they'll be looking at the phones as well, because they're young dudes. But we'll literally talk, for a couple of hours over dinner. And that doesn't happen as often as it used to happen, and it's just great to see young, in our case, it's a men's team, so young men doing that. and I think it makes them better young men afterwards. And
Oh, mate, those young guys in the team, like 19, 20, 22, 1, 22, they've grown as humans.
Like they're loose kids. Like they're like me.
Mate, what about, can we just dive into one funny story? I didn't know this until a while afterwards. At Grafton, can you tell us a funny story about Grafton?
There's a few. I mean, we could tell so many stories.
No clothes.
No, so many stories. I mean, I think
Christian.
Yeah, Christian Tornello. I mean, like he's a wild card. I mean, like if something's going to go wrong, it'll be Christian. And he's young too. He's a young chap.
So,
he's a good guy. But
so he rocks up.
Yeah, rocks up. So he's we've told all the lads to make sure they throw their end of race clothes in the team bus for the end of the day to get changed back into for the drive back to Grafton. And Christian's walked out of the house that morning, and we've gone, Christian, is your end of trip bag in the car? Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's in there.
Ready to go.
Cool. All right, mate, it's good. In you go then, and off we go. And he said it to me like he was sure it was in there. I'm like, that's cool. Anyway, so we go to the end of the race, and Christian actually has a tremendous race. It's the best I've seen him race ever. He had some ups and downs this year, but he got so much stronger, and he played a vital role for us in Grafton, and we could have actually used him better. He was so good. Anyway, so he finishes the race, and he's done a great job. He's pretty cooked, as you'd expect, and everyone's warming down, getting changed, and Christian goes, "Where's the bag?" I said, "What do you mean, where's your bag?" I'll put it in the back of that van. So the van's back in Grafton, mate. So he's had to literally strip down into a towel we found in the back of the RAV. I don't know what it had been used for. It had a certain shape and texture and firmness to it. But
it's Lisa Mayer towel.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from. I'm not sure it was. It might have been our towel, but he pulled it out and he had to wear that all the way back to Grafton, including into the local subway joint in Inverell, ordering his footlong.
And there's a great photo of the footlong.
He's a handsome man. Luckily, he's got that sort of slightly Italian sort of sleek physique, so he can pull it off.
He's a flat
if I did that, I'd still be in jail in Inverell now. But he, it was. It was impressive.
Correctional centre at the top of the hill.
But it's true. But he was, he wasn't anxious about it. He never stops talking. And the whole way back in the car, he was still in Jenna's ear the whole way back with his towel on. Didn't stop. So in the towel, and then No, he's a special kid. I love him. He's a special kid, Christian. But
you got to have your joker in the pack, mate. Yeah, and he's the joker in the pack.
We've got a few of them, but I think he probably takes the trump card for the loosest unit. I think young Ollie Sims from Tassie, like he's a professional as well, but that boy, he's got some humour behind him. He's the driest sense of humour, but he can light it up as well. But I think Christian probably holds the wildest wild card from the bunch.
Oh wow!
Mate, we'll put a photo up of this. I've been sitting in Subway in Inverell because it does make me laugh every time I see it.
I feel like there's probably 50 stories like that we could tell from ProVelo, but I guess the natural thing to move on to here, Whitey, is what's the rest of the year and next year looking like?
Yeah, what's next?
Good question. So I think ProVelo, overall was a success for us for what we set out to achieve. I think the riders rode better than I thought they would. The results were great. I mean, we'd love to have got a top of a podium, but I mean, once we saw the quality of the riders, especially from the Brennan squad, I think we recalibrated a little bit and worked more on the premise of trying to create a genuine counter threat to their dominance. And we had some races where we achieved that, and other races where we didn't. But hats off to Brennan; they're just a fantastically professional squad with a collection of unbelievable riders, and they deserve the results they got. But that's not to say that I'd want to be inside that team bus all the time, but they can ride a bike. Those guys, they're fantastic. And Timmy Rowe, their DS, he's a legend. I love the guy. So, one of their supporters, I'll call him the DS. I love Timmy Rowe. He's a good guy. But for us, I think we have a chance now just to settle down and just work ourselves out, get back into the routine of life away from ProVelo. Especially speaking for myself, there's a lot of things I've got to take care of outside of racing.
Yeah.
The rest of the season, I think in Queensland, there's not much going on as much as there used to be. Yeah, a lot of Mars. I think, as you all guys all know, there's some other stories there. Like unfortunately, we love Attacker, but our kit didn't quite get here in time this year due to Green Edge and the Bora team taking the slots for our kit in Italy. So
I think I say COVID.
Yeah, so we didn't quite get the kit here just in time for the ProVelo. Unfortunately, probably arrive this week or next. But we'll have all the guys looking pretty good this season, racing around muds. But this is other stories. Like talking about the guys racing. Borrowing 2-year-old skin suits to get it done. With holes in them.
Yes.
I'm like, fucking, who cares? The boys just showed up and got it done. No one
complained.
No one even said a word. And I'm like, we're doing our best, and attackers doing their best to get it done. And it's nothing to do with attack. It's not their fault. It's just the nature of Italian manufacturing. But
Siestas.
but not a word was spoken. And we were, we obviously had Bont in our corner this year, and Bont was this year with some fantastic equipment as well. So we got some good guys behind us. So what we'll work on this year is get some guys to racing and keep the mojo up and keep our own mojo up because it's a long season. And I think, ProVelo obviously will be back most likely bigger and better next year. So I think as we get towards the middle of this year, we'll really start to turn our attention towards organising ourselves ahead of that for next year. And, there's no way we won't be involved in it again next year. I think we've sort of created a bit of a platform for what we want to achieve and maybe go a fraction further. And I think our core of riders will be very, very keen to reprise their roles. I know that... Freebs have been sliding my DMs this week about it again, but I think we can carry him any longer. My shoulders are too tired.
The big question is, will they have a silver jersey next year?
A silver jersey, the Silver Fox jersey. It's possible. I mean, it may be made from parachute material, but it's possible. I could have a word to Matty about it. I just don't know if he'll come back to me on it. But
the Wang thought he had it, mate, and he did a DNF in the last stage, mate. So I did sort of sneak in and just steal it off him, mate. So
I mean, the question is...
We could have won that jersey. Of all the jerseys, mate, we had it.
Yeah, I guess the question is what age does a silver jersey cut in? 40 plus, yeah. Look, I think...
Lambo doesn't count.
If it's a rider, for the oldest looking rider, obviously Lambo would win that. But although the rider with the most amount of weight in his shoulders, Lambo win that as well. But I think... Yeah, I'll have a word to Matty. I'm sure I'll take it on board. But so we'll work towards the end of this year, and we want to come back bigger and better next year. And our sponsors, we've got, they've all come out of the season going, mate, that was some serious shit we did there. It was pretty good.
Plenty of TV time.
Yeah, and I think we want to go a little bit better next year and be more organised as well. So we'll get it done. But I think also, we'd love to be able to expand our racing a bit more next year as well and race a bit more widely. I've still got the idea of maybe heading to Southland end of this year with a squad as well, but we'll see how that goes. The fourth Grand Tour of the year would be nice to go to, but it'll just be a matter of, working out the riders' schedules coming back from overseas and if we can pull it off. And talking to a few of my mates, like trying to get Vinky across there for us as well, so we get the big Vink back for it, or big JC Driver as well. So we'll see.
JC Driver.
Pull him out of retirement as well. But
mate, Schultz is keen, I think, to go around again.
We'll
Loves
see.
it.
Well, Elliot. I think I meant Nick Schultz. But both
Elliot.
Elliot's already messaged me. I made that chat and he was straight on the DMs as well. So we've got, this is the caliber of guys we got. They're just guys who want to get in there and get it done. So I think that's the thing we didn't probably touch on a little bit with the actual ProVelo stuff as well. I mean, like when you support the guys, you get in there, you look after them, you take care of all their bits and bobs and take the expenses away. They'll ride for you. If you make them pay their own way, they're not going to ride for you. You can't ask someone to fly to Adelaide and then say, "Hey, mate, you're on the front for on the front of the day." It's like, no, not going to happen. So you have to be generous for the riders to be generous, and I think that's part of it as well. So, but away from that, the rest of it just takes care of itself. Once guys get a sense of that team environment, they're going to put themselves into the deepest box you can imagine for their teammates.
Well, Waddy, we've gone on ProVelo for a fair while now, but let's talk a little bit about you.
Yep.
And you touched on it before about how you've been running a lot more lately and a lot less bike riding, much to...
Boo.
Well, we'll see you around Muzz pretty soon for sure, I guess. But
Sure.
Are you on for Port Mac again this year? Have you got what are your personal aspirations?
Yeah, I'm a few of us go down and do Port Mac Ironman every year just to sort of make sure it still hurts. I think, you can't take that part out of the cyclist. I mean, a big part of what makes cycling so enjoyable is I love pain. I love how it feels to feel. And I think, we live lives these days that are so amazing and so perfect that unless you feel the edges, you just go straight through them. So you kind of want to feel that a little bit, and that's what Port Mac is for us. It's that new version of, Three Peaks or Grafton. I can't ride as much as I used to. I've got issues with my prostate, so I can't do the same volume I used to do. So riding TT bikes and doing Ironman's much more comfortable for me than riding, massive Ks on the roadie all the time. But, I still be at Muzz, still love smashing on with the young boys. I love it. Yeah, it's good fun.
And keeping on triathlon. So I was having a chat with one of the other boys earlier today, and we were talking about how triathlon seems to run their events a hell of a lot better than cycling does. They regularly get several thousand people to a triathlon in the middle of nowhere where people are paying an exorbitant amount of money to show up and swim and ride and run, which is logistically way more challenging than rocking up for a bike race and closing a few roads. And we seem to struggle in Queensland to get participation in our cycling events. Do you think, having crossed the bridge and done a fair few multi-sport events now, do you think there's a few things that we could bring back from multi-sport into cycling to really try and...
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a mentality thing, to be honest. I think if we want to have generally amazing racing experiences like we used to have, like the old Battle on the Border from 2015 and, you know, the races which are multi-stage races with jerseys and overall times, you know, if you want that, then unfortunately you've got to pay for it. And I think somehow in the cycling culture and cycling space, I don't know when it happened, but at some point something crept in where people just don't want to pay for shit. And it's a problem. I mean, you know, you want to do Ironman, you're going to pay $1.5 grand.
Yeah, you're paying $1.5 grand.
$1.5 grand.
Yeah.
That's why.
And that's one day. That's one day. It's 11 hours, but it's one day. If you want to do a half Ironman, it's $700. You want to go and do Noosa Triathlon, it's $500.
Mate, people are blowing up for paying $90 for a race here.
Yeah. So if you want to run a race, you got to pay for it. And Battle in the old days wasn't as expensive as an Ironman, but it was expensive and you paid for it. So what happens now is you have a cohort of people who want to spend $25 for an elite road race on the roads and then get paid to 8th place in D grade. And I'm like, you can't have that shit.
Thanks, Whitey.
You know,
well said.
So if you know, you can't have that. It doesn't work. You know, if you win age group at Port Mac, you get a handshake and an offer to go and spend $2.5 grand on an Ironman over in Kona. Whereas
one thing they do really well is they celebrate the people on the podium in their age group. So they get them up there and they give them the hand shandy.
It's not that. I mean, it's not that so much, I don't think. I mean, hand shandy sounds good, but I don't think it's that. I think it's
Jimbo loves a hand shandy.
Yeah, I mean,
who doesn't? He's already asked for two tonight.
He's only here for one reason. But
back, mate.
I think there's Ironman runs an event which is largely based on participation. And cycling at its core is an event which is based more upon elitism and outcome. You know, it's about winning rather than participating. And I think that's the challenge cycling has got. It's got to somehow find a way
very
of,
good point.
You know, and that's why Fondos are so successful because of participation events. That's why Three Peaks are so successful. So somehow you've got to find a way of shaping it for riders that they can go and not win and it's okay. It's interesting because I think there exists an opportunity to do that because like even when we were racing QRTS back in the day and, you know, it wasn't a cheap event to enter, but in hindsight, it was very cheap, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We didn't realise how cheap it was at the time and really it should have cost more. But, you know, as a rider who used to do a lot of QRTS poorly, but I used to show up and do them with our squad, you know, I didn't need to win to feel incredibly satisfied. You know, I could finish 37th place and finish with the second bunch and I felt like I'd won the race, you know. So I think we imagine that winning races is more important than it really is, whereas for some riders, you know, having a day out and riding above their potential on that day and having a good outcome is all they need. So I think number one priority is we have to reset the mindset about what racing costs. And I mean, unless people get real about what racing costs, we're not going to have any more racing. $50 road races for Charles Coyne's a thing of the past. Yep. So, you know, you want it, you can have it, you got to pay for it. But around that, if you want it, you're going to pay for it. Then the event organisers have to put on an event. It has to be an event. You can't have half a lane closure. So if you're going to do a road race and you're going to pay for it, then it's got to be good, you know. Yep. I think that's what ProVelo has done this year. Like they've kept it safe. They've kept the road closures. The rolling road closures are fantastic.
Yeah, that was good.
It feels like a real event. ProVelo, you know, got some signage up, got some hoarding up, got some SPS coverage. It feels like a real event. People are happy to pay for it. You know, local road racing in Queensland, you get some events up, you get some, you know, some socials behind it. You charge a fair amount for it. You know, and I say a fair amount, people will show up, you know. But like Battle on the Border, you'd get 1,000 guys every year and girls every year showing up and racing. It was huge, you know, huge. And it can happen again. I mean, it's harder, but you can get what you want if you're prepared to pay for it. And cycling has to pay for it. They need to have higher entry fees and then have critical sponsors at the top level who are helping from the top down to pay for it as well. But you can't go back to 2017 prices and expect to be able to close roads.
So you're saying, I guess, less road races but more quality.
Yeah, I think
probably the
I think we need to be looking at club races like the Olimba road races and the Merbar stuff's great, and that should happen. It's never going to be quite the same sort of racing. That's fine, and they should make most of those handicaps rather than just road races. It makes much more sense to run handicaps all the time, and handicaps are fantastic to run.
They're fun.
Yeah, more fun. They are. They're great. We used to race only handicaps in Tasmania for years. And it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But away from that, you put in 4 to 6, maybe probably 4 critical events a year, and you invest in it, and you make them big, and you get the support behind them, and you make them events. You make them events that guys train for. They train for 3 peaks. That's on in May. I'm going to train for that, and you get there.
It's like Tour Bright.
Yeah,
people are traveling for that now.
Yeah, exactly right. It was because it's out there. There's not much like it. So if you do it, I'll do it. But you got to commit to it. It's expensive. It's a risky thing to do. But
yeah, it's risk.
Unless the mindset changes around entry fees, it's not worth doing. Clubs lose too much money.
Well, I don't think there's hardly any road races on this year. I think Metros is on, and that's about it.
I think Metros maybe Darren Smith. Maybe.
Yeah,
Darren Smith will get up.
Charles Coyne's on.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep.
At this stage.
Which one's Ginny running?
I think that's Charles Coyne.
I couldn't find a race director for the last 8 weeks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's challenging, but I think those events have to have their own inertia, and with that inertia comes support from the club as well. I think showing up to do a race that no one wants to be involved with is a hard sell.
Yeah. So Whitey, I think Cobra 9's probably got more airtime this ProVelo series than Carbon Cycling Orthotics have got ever. Like, is there any other brand of carbon cycling orthotic that's anywhere near it?
What is Cobra 9, mate?
Yeah.
Is it a snake?
It's an entity, isn't it? It's like it's a thing. Look,
what's the 9 stand for?
2009. So the
there you go.
Who
knew that?
Yeah, no one. Look, it's
now
funny.
Whitey.
Yeah.
Mate, that's famous now.
The secret's been it's like the herbs and spices.
Yeah. 9 spices and herbs. In the carbon.
And they're all oregano. No, we started the idea of I've obviously been a podiatrist for 20 odd years, and
have you?
Yeah, at the time I'm 45. So it's been 24 years of working as a pod. But the idea of doing the cycling insoles sort of came around probably 16, 17 years ago, and I was racing in Tassie, and it wasn't much around at the time, and I just felt like it was a bit of a gap in the market, and we had our own lab, and I had a bit of a muck around with it and played with some devices and made some really shit things that I didn't like, and made some less shit things, and eventually sort of found a shape which seemed to work pretty well. And the idea of making cycling insoles kind of came from that. There wasn't much of a market for it at the time. I mean, Solstar was doing a little bit at the time, but not really. I think the idea of insoles and cycling shoes was really not well established at the time, which was interesting. Anyway, so we had the idea of doing this as a company, and a mate of mine in Tassie, Chrissy, and I, we sort of set it up. And the idea of the name came from Cobra being the snake, because the device is carbon fibre, and look at it, it looks like a snake. So Cobra 9 was 2009 was the year it was discovered. So we'll set up Cobra 9. And at the time, my brother-in-law was like, people love names with numbers and names in them at the same time. I was like, all right, Cobra 9 it is. And we did that, and it wasn't really much of a company, and we created our first racing kit in 2010, and we rocked up at a race, and I realised that we created an entire kit, and all we had was numbers on the name on the front and nothing on the back. It was just such an amateur hour shit. I rocked up at a race in Hobart with this on, and I had my Cobra 9 kit on. I felt like such an imposter.
Did you win?
No. But it's interesting because I think, that people talk about imposter syndrome, and I walked into that race that day, and I felt embarrassed to be wearing this kit. I felt embarrassed to be wearing the kit that I designed, and it was our company, which wasn't much of a company, and I felt like everyone was looking at me, and I felt like almost embarrassed, which is fascinating life experience. Anyway,
fast forward to 25, mate, and here you are.
Yeah, well, I guess that's where I'm getting at. So we did that for a bit. We had a team, and we had a team of no product for a long time. We had a racing team with no products. We weren't selling anything. And we designed more and more devices. We started designing off-the-shelf devices about 2013, and really we had a product which existed before the market was there for it. And so people didn't know what we were doing, really. And then, fast forward, mid-2015, 2017, all of a sudden everyone was doing it. I'm like, we've been doing this for years. You guys just catching up. But we really weren't taking it as seriously as we should have done, to be honest. We were just still playing around with it a little bit, and it wasn't until probably later on 2019-20 we really took it seriously and started up our partnership with Bont and started doing the insoles for Bont shoes, and got a bit more airtime that way, and got more confidence and more manufacturing and bigger and badder, and we did some better things and more volume, and we had a real product. We really had a product then, an off-the-shelf product as well as a custom product. And, Cobra and I became more of a thing, and the racing team was kicked off properly in 2015. I remember we did our first kit with the Tacker in 2015, and for the racing team, which raced NRS that year. I rocked up at this race, and I still felt like, it's got Cobra and on it. It's kind of, seems a bit embarrassing. I know it sounds strange, but it does at the time. And, Attacker was a massive boon. The boys from Attacker, Greg and Steve, are good mates of mine. They're legends, and they were all over it. We were their first custom kit they ever did. And I showed up at this race at Battle, the NRS Battle, and guys were like, that's a fucking sick kit. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. And we had dudes from overseas and Italy and France ringing up trying to buy the kit. And I'm like, what, you want to buy our kit? It just felt so strange. And I'd see Instagram photos of these dudes in Italy and France riding around with their kit on. And I was like, that's so weird. But it's so hard to get your head around that. And then, these days I put on a Cobra 9 kit, and, our head sponsors changed from Interbuild to Lee Surveying over the last 5 years. And I put that kit on, and I just feel like, mate, you just feel so proud. Proud of what it is, the company, and the fact we're still going, and we're getting bigger and bigger every year, and we're going to get more and more international all the time and sell more and more of our stuff overseas through Cobra 9, obviously, but also that it stands for something, and that so many guys want to wear it, and that, we're all standing on the shoulders of the guys that came before us. And I tell you what, mate, there are some guys that have ridden in that kit over the years that are all world tour riders now, and it just makes that foundation feel so solid and such concrete. And, guys, I get guys now come up and who want to race for us, and, mate, they've been yearning to wear that kit for years. Like, I've always wanted to wear that kit, and I wanted to be in that team. And fuck, mate, that's better than taking fucking Viagra, mate. So it's been a hell of a journey. The idea of going from being embarrassed of what you got and being embarrassed of your own brand to one where you feel like it stands. And it's a slow process, and it's taken 16 years to get there. And it's taken a lot of mistakes, and we've taken some weird turns, and mate, there's some stuff we could talk about that would just make you would not believe what's happened over those years. But we've had 3 guys in the team die over the 16 years. We've had 3 riders. So there's some stuff out there which when you're involved in cycling for that long, it's hectic. It's hectic. But we're still here and we're still doing it. And that's what cycling is. It's it's not just sport. It's a culture. It's a culture. It's a culture, it's a family, there's a camaraderie there which keeps coming back every single day. And all of us here, we aren't riding to the best of our abilities that we used to ride. Like, we've all been better. We've all ridden better when we were younger, and I've ridden a lot better when I was younger than I do now. And I still fucking love cycling. I love how it looks, love how it feels, love seeing it. And now I've got a young son, Jasper, who's my youngest, and he was in the team car for the Q Tour.
Yeah.
And he's been at me all year to come in the team car. He wanted to be in the team car. Hasn't ridden a bike properly himself, really. After the Q Tour, he was like, he knows the boys, loves loves them, loves the squad. And he talks about them all the time. And we're sort of, at home, and he's in his room now, and he's playing like Tour de France games on his Xbox, and he's put himself in those games, and he's talking about, I want to be with those boys. And mate, that's what it's all about. Like, we do it for that reason. We don't do it because we want to win races. We do it because, there's a culture around cycling, which is just such a wonderful thing. And, when you can capture that and you're on the inside of it, it's great. And that's all I want Cobra 9 to be. I want Cobra 9 to be a company which is seen as being one which is organic with cycling, not some sort of mercenary group from the outside coming in trying to take from cycling. We come from the inside out, not from the outside in. That's a big difference. There are a lot of companies that are created, come in, want to poach what's in there. Mate, we're on the inside out. We're coming from the inside, and whatever we take, whatever we grow, whatever we build, it comes from inside of cycling.
I think you achieved it this year, mate.
Yeah, I think this year's been a nice way to get back on the correct tracks this year. We've had some wild years over the last 5 years, but this year certainly has set the train back on a better course. And just the chat around it's obviously demonstrated that. And the outcomes. I mean, we can talk about all the guys, but Rowan winning points race, that's you hear that, you get home, you hear that, you're like, fucking hell.
How cool.
Big Jakey Cawthorne. I mean, like, that kid, he's such a nice kid. He's funny, he's flippant, but he's such a good kid. And to see him progress into just an out and out ball this year on the bike and just back himself, I'm like, You want guys to grow into that space and to back themselves. And cycling is a confidence sport, and he's got confidence now. And they've all got confidence. We've all got confidence out of it. So, yeah, we can keep doing that. We'll be going okay,
mate. So well said. Only been with the team now for less than 12 months, probably, but from my experience, the effort you guys have put into the team this year has been unbelievable. Watching the guys grow, like you've just been talking about, it's been incredible. Being part of it was intimidating because of the success of the team. But
mate, we're intimidated by you, Freebs. No, you come on board. You're well spoken. You're well dressed. You've got a fantastic knowledge of wines, red and white. You've
mate, no one jumped on my chat about the wines, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like these guys are all in the hard solo, mate. So you're bucking up the wrong tree there. But it's funny you say that, Freebs, but I think we all underestimate our own level of intimidation sometimes. Like, you say that. I don't see myself as being a very intimidating character. I don't see the team as being intimidating.
No, it's not.
From the outside, people will see it that way. You're the same, Freebs. Like people see you, they see a guy who's a hell of a good A-grade rider, who's raced very widely, and you probably underestimate your own level of intimidation as well. So I think it's on all of us as cyclists to sometimes to make sure we don't create those,
just to level that out,
create those barriers. Yeah, we've got to be a bit more inclusive rather than I tell everyone I see, if you see me at a race, I know I'll look like I'm important, but come and say hello. Don't be like, oh, he's too busy. I mean, don't mid-team team talk is one thing, but come and say hello and say hello to the boys. We're
mate, it's probably
the same.
Having raced in other states is probably the best part about Queensland cycling, from my perspective, is that how inclusive it is.
Yeah, it has to happen. You can't have this clicking.
And it's got to be more, and I think there's more potential for it. And even just talking to Schultzy, Elliot, he came back 2 weeks ago and he goes, mate, I'm so happy to be back in Brisbane. Like just the fact someone would talk to you at the start line and say g'day and how are you, and he's just like, man, I can't believe that in Victoria they wouldn't even.
Yeah, it's an issue, and I've seen it myself, and I've been there myself, and you fall into it a little bit yourself sometimes. You don't mean to, but it happens. But it is good that it's good that you can not try and avoid doing that. But it's also great when you get guys like Schultzy, like Elliot Schultz, who's a phenomenal rider, comes into the squad for the last round, and we all know him for sure, but he just folds in seamlessly.
Yeah,
there's no issues there. There's no he's asking, he's asked for the direction, he's asking the right questions. He's very humble. He's an incredibly talented bike rider. Yeah. He's incredibly talented, but he's humble. And we don't want guys who aren't humble in the team. It doesn't work. It never has worked. Never will work.
Self-selects, mate. Eventually.
Well,
good chat.
All right, we know boys, you're a busy man, mate, and you're off to go play some hockey. So
yep. He never stops, mate.
No. So thanks very much for coming on tonight, mate.
Thanks for having me, boys.
We've got a few other things to carry on with tonight, but how much fun was that,
mate?
Shawnee, you haven't said a word yet, mate.
I was flabbergasted,
just in awe.
Yeah. Well, what a great listen that was.
I hope everyone enjoys it as much as we just did.
Yeah. No,
thanks, Whitey.
One of the main takeaways from that for me was just how everyone sees one aspect of cycling. We see the race and we see that, but the actual culture behind the team is just so important, and the infrastructure behind it.
Yeah, following on from that, Jim Bob, the thing that stood out to me, what Whitey was saying, was the camaraderie side. And that's something, since QRTS has stopped, that's something that I've really missed in the cycling.
Fraternity.
In the local cycling scene, right, is the camaraderie. Like, I remember having weekends away with the lads, and exactly what Whitey said. You'd be sitting down at a long table just talking
shit.
Garbage. And they're memories that are instilled in my brain for the rest of my life. I'll froth that. Like, I want to do ProVelo next year just for that.
Yeah, man.
I'll be the bottle feeder or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll be in the car.
Join the queue, mate.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I don't want to race stuff that. Just get me there. But no, that was a pleasure having Whitey on. Very good of him to take some time out of his busy schedule for us, and
he is a busy man. He's a very busy man,
and he made some powerful statements there, I reckon,
and quite factual too.
Yeah,
a lot of experience behind that, and I think just how impressive Cobra 9's been over so many years, so many world tour riders, as you said, and just an exciting place to be around. Jim Bob, at the moment, there's a good culture, good atmosphere.
Absolutely. And speaking of, we had
success out of the boys.
That's right. We had national track nats last week, and Rowan come away with the points race win.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Snuck that through to the keeper.
Apparently, it was a sensational race to watch. It was just,
Man, that guy's got some power.
yeah. And he's been training the house.
He's got an impressive turn of speed.
Yeah.
And it was a Queensland clean sweep, I believe.
It was.
Moriarty.
1, 2, 3. Declan and Moriarty as well, cleaning out the podium.
Pretty impressive. Queensland cleaned up the track nats.
Mate, they definitely did. Homegrown advantage, maybe.
Where else are they going to do it?
I believe. Yeah.
That's it. And James also got IP gold as well.
That was impressive ride.
And then in the TP, they went sub 4 and got gold there too. Declan, Rowan, James, and Noah Blennet.
That is an impressive time, hey?
Mate, 3:55. What's the world record? 3:42 or something like that?
Well, it's not too many years ago that going sub 4 was a big deal.
Correct, man.
Like we're talking maybe 10 years ago.
Yep. That's very impressive, boys.
It's
well
so
done.
impressive. I believe Rowan also came second in the scratch race. I think that was perhaps behind Kurt Ether come third, and John Carter, I think, might have won.
Okay.
So,
yep.
mate, there's some big boys he's given away a few waddies to there. That's
Yeah.
an outstanding result.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
he's
He
cleaned
might
up.
need to see the chiropractor with all this silverware around his neck.
Mate, imagine if he's there for the last round of the ProVelo.
Oh, geez.
Holy dilly.
Smoked it up. Anyway.
And special shout out to
Yeah.
Ella Liang. She got the junior world record. for
World
the
record,
1,000
yeah.
metre
Saw
sprint.
that. That's impressive as hell.
That's a massive achievement.
Very,
Congratulations
very
to
impressive.
her.
I mean, she's been impressing for a while there. I've been watching her through the States and then into the Nationals and then to, get the world record. That's huge.
That is an absolute result. Wow.
Laying it down.
Jesus. World records don't fall very often, man.
Well, mate, you know what happens next week, don't you? We traverse from the track nats to the Masters track
Here we
nats. The silver jerseys are back out in force.
How many events you doing for Eves?
All of one.
Oh, just one.
My bike only does one.
Just the IP, mate.
Just the IP. And, mate,
What? Can't you get some bunch bars for it?
nah, just one event.
So when's the IP?
Well, I think it's Monday and Monday week, that is. And it'll be my very second time on the track
Jeez.
racing. And I've absolutely no idea how I'm going to go because the last time I did it was exactly 18 months ago. So we'll see, mate. I'm going to have a crack. No idea. But I mean, like Toby Jones, like obviously he resulted well last week, but no, he's doing a 3:10 for 3,000 meters. Like that's insane power.
That's rapid from a standing
Mate, it's
start.
rapid. And like he's doing like 16 or 17 second laps. Like that's 50, 60, nearly 60 k's an hour.
Yeah.
That's like rapid pace.
What's your 3,000 meter time, mate?
Mate, if I'm under 3:35, I think I'll be happy. So he's going to push through 25 seconds. Like he'll overlap me. So that's just so much power.
Well, just so you don't have to verse him, eh?
Mate, kids versus the old farts is all I'll say. But anyway, so the track nats are on for Masters this coming weekend plus
Yep.
a bit. There's plenty of local racing up here at Queensland as well. So, yeah, I'll be participating but watching mostly. So I'll go from riding my double discs around the velodrome,
Are
Shawnee.
you rocking double disc?
You have
around
to
the
go
valley,
double
right?
disc, mate.
Yeah?
Double Ds. You also rock a double D, don't you?
You would double D.
Oh,
Double down on the double shark, mate, don't you? How'd you go over the shopping cart last week, mate? Enjoying those little
Yes, mate.
bad boys?
I've taken them for a couple of little rides.
The sharks?
Mate, the standout thing, which is actually blowing my mind with these wheels, is how stable they are in the wind. Like I haven't noticed deflections with any other wheels, but then I've put these sharks on, and I'm like, my God,
They don't move.
they do not move.
Locked on.
Locked on. Like
Laser focused.
the other day, I was climbing this hill, and I saw it was windy as hell up the top. And the mate I was with, he pointed it out to me, and we descended the hill, and I was rock solid. And then we get to the bottom of the hill. He goes, "Man, I almost freaking crashed coming down that hill." And I was like,
Front was
"Man,
blowing around everywhere."
it was fine. No stress, brother." So I'm enjoying them. I reckon I'll ride them for the rest of this week, and then I'll pass them on to. I'll pass them on to maybe Jim Bob next. Seeing you're at the track next week, mate.
Yeah, good point.
The thing
Big
that
rig
stands
gym
out
bob.
for me is that they are so aesthetically pleasing on the eyes.
They do look sexy.
They do look good. And like, I took a little video this morning, and just the wave pattern with the wheel moving, it looks dope.
Love it.
I reckon all wheels going that way. Just throwing it there.
The one thing I want to do, I'll tell you how I've set these up is they're not set up tubeless. It would be good to set them up tubeless, I reckon.
We've only got them for a short time.
Yeah, I know. If we had them for a longer time, it would be good to set them up tubeless and then put on a set of brand new like race tires.
Yeah, 32s or something.
Yeah. Oh, not 32s because they won't fit on my BMC then.
Screw your BMC.
Um,
Mate, that'll be gone soon.
but
Won't fit in your wheels.
yeah. But
Are you listening, BMC?
well, yeah, that's
Wake up.
When that bike got released, it got questioned a lot because they're like 30 mil max clearance. So
Yeah, that's not good enough.
They won't balloon, mate. They
But
won't
like,
balloon
what's
either.
your S5 take? Do you know?
38s.
No,
Get that in ya.
38.
Mate.
I'm not 100% sure what it takes, but on the reserves, I've got 28s that blow out to 31.5 millimeter diameter.
Yeah.
And there's still plenty of clearance.
Plenty.
Yep.
That's why I said 38.
Nah.
Do you know?
Yeah, mate. You read up on the specs.
Okay.
Mate, I know a lot about Cervelos.
I think you're dreaming. I saw Chris Miller did something the other day with maybe a set of 32s, and it was tight. It was tight on his S5.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll run them for a few more weeks, I reckon, and see what we all reckon of them. See
Very
if
cool.
we've got the same opinion.
Regardless, mate, they look sexy.
They do look good. And potentially some new socks dropping soon, Freebs.
Mate, there's been socks dropping everywhere. I saw Mads was dropping some new socks the other day. Did you see that on the TV?
Mate, Mads was ripping everyone a new ass
On the one buys?
Yeah.
But no, we've got some. I don't want to go out too early on this, but we've certainly got some new socks and some overshoes in train on the way to the cart. So
That's exciting, mate.
yeah, just hold your breath, Shawnee. I know you're excited,
Oh,
but
Ooh,
it's coming, mate.
lovely. Can't wait.
New socks, new overshoes.
Well, that's about all we have time for today,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yep. It's
Mate, Whitey just came on here and just dominated that tonight. He was sensational. Irish Johnny did the same thing a few weeks ago. He came on and just went bang, bang, bang. And Whitey was very impressive tonight, I thought.
He was.
Very
It was
professional.
good to listen to him.
Well, let's wrap it up for this week. We'll see you guys next week.
Can't wait.
Scott.
Cheerio.
Yes?
500 watts, please.